Peter, and I'm Paul. Welcome to the Twin Perspective. All right, today we're talking about a condition, and this condition is something that we see all around us. It's either in our family, places of work, even our community. But the thing about the condition is people don't really notice it until it becomes a problem. Peter, what do you think?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the word diabetes, and that's the condition for today. We're not going to talk about from a textbook perspective, but we're going to be talking about the real life situations, the things that people do not understand that causes diabetes, and that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Great, because one of the questions that people always ask is what are the common signs and symptoms that you see with cases of diabetes?
So, this disease is not a disease that just comes out of the blue. It creeps up on you. There are symptoms of like tiredness, increased thirst, that you have blurry vision, tingling. And that's one of the reasons that because it's diabetic situation, a lot of people that come to the ED and come in as a stroke-like symptom, we usually try to check their blood sugar first because sometimes diabetic people could actually mimic stroke symptoms.
Wow. What I realize is that lots of people are untested to even know if they're diabetic or not. And it's not like they can say, oh, I'm diabetic, except they're being tested. But the common things with the signs and symptoms, which you mentioned now, is the common tiredness. People say, oh, I'm very tired today. And they say that's something normal. Or they look at it that, oh, my eyes feel blurry today, and they say that's normal. And the most common thing people normally say would be, oh, it's my age, I'm getting older.
hmm
And they don't link it that this might even be some of the signs and symptoms of your body telling you, you need to get checked.
You're right, Paul. And one thing that we have to also talk about is who are the people at risk of this disease? You know, the first and foremost, I would say that is people with family history of diabetes.
Mm,
If you know your family has it, it's something you should be very cautious about. People who are really stressed, because stress also induces that. So stress, I know, right? We all are stressed. So, stress, people that love carbs. I love my rice. Africans, pasta, swallow, all those things in excess could actually induce that also. You know, um, if you love so much sugary drinks, like, the sodas and all that, that could also be a risk factor. If you leave a lifestyle that is not, like you do not exercise, you always
mhm,
just eating late at night, you know,
mhm.
those are factors that could actually help induce you being at risk of having diabetic.
Okay. Now, this is what you've mentioned now. These are like common things that we actually practice every day. And sometimes I look at the culture, the environment we're in. And I look, for example, in my days in Dubai, because it's always really hot, you know, you walk in the sun and the next thing is you want to quench your thirst.
hmm
And one of the things we always think that water doesn't quench the thirst as much as, you drinking a bottle of, Coke or Fanta, something or soda that gives you that feeling of, quenching the thirst. How do I, come out of that to realize? Because if you to realize that just drinking water can actually help, quench the thirst.
So, one thing I always say is this: we cannot eliminate some things sometimes. However, we could help in making conscious effort in reducing them. So let's say
Mm,
now that in a regular day, you take like, 2 3 bottles of Coke a day, right? But you're
okay.
trying to make conscious effort right now. So okay, you know what? I'm going to reduce my intake to once a day instead of 3 times a day, you know, or you're trying to eat like a large meal with like carbs. it's better you divide those into different parts. So instead of having like one large meal, you could have like four little pieces of meal, like, little bits of meal. So that way it's digesting faster and you're not
Mm-hmm.
accumulating a lot of glucose or sugar in your body, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm gonna take it back to my New York days. People that live in walk-ups, you have to walk the stairs or the elevator. Shit. Take the stairs sometimes, if you feel like you want to burn some calories. And it's also better to have those meals earlier in the day than late at
Mm-hmm.
night. Like you used to say, I know when we're at grandma's house when we're younger and we go for vacation, like you cannot eat dinner past 6 o'clock. Once at six
Yeah.
o'clock, you're having dinner, and that's it. Even though we know that at 6, we're gonna still be hungry at 9 o'clock. But you could
Yeah.
have like healthy snacks, like bananas or something, or just something healthy to eat when you're snackish later at night.
Mhm. Yeah. I do agree with you. And my insight or what I've been thinking about is how does technology even play a bit of role to help this? And when I mean technology, I don't mean, the big techs, simply having the lifestyle changes of having a counting of your steps, for example,
Correct.
or even checking the type of, I don't want to use the word calories you're eating because I don't like to count calories, but if
Hmm.
we follow what you've said in the small frequent meals, I think that should suffice enough. How do you think that plays a role for us?
Well, thank you, Paul. And you're the tech guru, though. But I do know that in regards to that, technology and modern medicine has made a lot of things really nice for us in terms of being aware of situations. And one of the things that we have to understand is even listening to messages like this helps other people to
Mm,
know the right things to do. You know, because knowledge is power. You know,
absolutely.
Yes, by knowing that, hey, I feel, someone is feeling so tired, or have
Mm,
you're seeing a change in the mental capacity, like
yeah.
that should be a warning sign. Like, hey, is the blood glucose low? Is it high? To check that out. And like you said, with technology, we have the glucose machine that everyone can do it. You do not have to be a doctor or nurse or a healthcare professional to be able to
Absolutely.
check things like that. These are machines that are readily available, sold everywhere. It's just a prick, and you could actually get that little blood and see what your blood glucose is.
Absolutely. I think the monitoring of your blood glucose is something everyone should do. Everyone should have that in their home. Have a small, it doesn't have to be the expensive one. Have a small blood glucose machine in your house, and keep checking your blood glucose.
Correct. And I'll say also for people that feel like, what can I do at home,
Yeah,
to help with my sugar? Diet is the
exactly.
first thing. I'll say your diet is very important. Try to eat as much as healthy living as you can. Healthy food are expensive, especially in America. I feel like junks are more the cheaper than having healthy foods.
Mm,
So let's try and practice eating healthy, a little
okay.
veggie here and there. You could even do exercise in your home, not even registering at a gym. Walking around, that could also help. Taking more water instead of sodas, those are
Mhm.
things that we're gonna like put the balances in.
So one of the concerns I have, in this, and I know lots of people have come out to say,
Hmm.
stop using this, stop doing that, stop doing this. But I always look at it again, in reality, how realistic is this for us to stop so many things? The culture, accessibility, even in terms of money, funds to be able to get these things. If sometimes if it's just what I can afford to eat is what I see, I don't have a choice to be able to cherry pick that, oh, okay, I don't want to eat this because it's not healthy. That is what is available, so this is what I need to eat. But how do we look at that from that perspective from other people?
That is a very like you asking that question just made my mind just blow up right now because I'm thinking in my head like we want changes, right?
Yes.
And does it affect only people that can afford it? you know.
mm,
And I'm going to use the US for example, especially in Atlanta right here. We have the Sprouts, we have the Whole Foods, we have the Publix that they do have more organic stuff, and healthy living for people, but they're expensive. Would I want to spend $50 and buy healthy food, or I want to spend $50 and getting a lot of food at home so that I could
mm,
have things for the month? So we're having
right.
choices right here now. So it's like I feel like we're in the era where you have the option of, do you want to leave healthy and be broke, or you want to leave, unhealthy and have a lot of food? But
Mm,
that shouldn't be an option. There should be other things to help us out, because at the end of the day, people are getting sick, because they cannot afford lifestyle. And we spoke about stress being one of the inducing factors
yeah,
for this. Man, I tell you, like, it's hard. Everyone could be stressed, and stress could actually, like, that's something that it's not easy to avert. However, though, I'll go back to your questions and how we can actually help this out in terms of people like
okay.
this, right? And I feel like the little way we could do it, I do know that there's a way you can still refine products and make it
Mm,
healthy, like the things you can change, by trying to at least do some exercise, or do not eat those products late at night. Do it early in the day so you can burn the calories
exactly.
before
Yeah,
nighttime. you know
yeah.
don't wake up in the middle of the night and snack. That's me. But however, we try to do stuff like that. So I think those are the ways that we could do. And if the government could also help out in this way, because I'm telling you, I do know one thing. In Australia, it's so funny because the sugary things, or the things that are very like high calories,
Mm.
they're the ones that are expensive. It's the reverse. They make it more cheaper to buy healthy stuff and expensive to buy unhealthy stuff.
Which makes more sense. That's a way of support.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
I was also thinking about this, for example, in terms of looking at some healthy snacks that we can actually buy that are not really expensive.
Okay.
Rather than, and this is something that I also started to do myself. Rather than
Okay.
eating chocolate, for example, which
Mm-hmm.
I used to love chocolate a lot. Rather than eating chocolate, I would rather have almonds.
Okay.
I'd rather have peanuts, because if I feel like I need to yeah, I need to choose something, I'd rather have some healthy snacks. And now buying peanuts, it's even cheaper than buying chocolate, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we need to look at things that we can even substitute that are more healthy for us than the expensive stuff that we feel is more luxurious,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't give more benefit to our body than the other things we should actually consume.
They say we have cheat days, right? I do have my cheat days. Listen, but I realize some people, I have people like, it's not, you do your cheat day every day. you know like, cheat day shouldn't be every day. It should be like, once in a while you have the craving for something, but you
Mm,
eat it, but you realize that you have to make up for it. You can't have a cheat day today, then tomorrow is also your cheat day, then next day is also your your cheat day. So there has to be days that you can have to, like, move things around. So
mm. Well, do you feel that I think this is one of the things we spoke about, for people to have more community, and if we look at technology, for example, on people looking at people with that living with diabetes, for example,
mhm,
if they have an incident whereby it's maybe their blood sugar is low or it's high, do they have a community? I feel diabetic patients, hypertensive patients should have a community. I know, and this is more on removing the stigma on some disease conditions, whereby, especially if you're on that line of, you going IPO, is you should have communities you can reach out to if there's an incident. You should have people you can talk to on how the healthy snacks they're having, or thing, because it's not something an individual person can do alone.
so one thing I know is that in terms of having a community, I do not really know about that, but I feel like we could have friends and family members holding us accountable for stuff. Um,
Absolutely.
like we have the, either like partners, or you have people that you exercise together, or you have people that check in on you. Oh, because I actually have a friend back in college, and she sent a message like, "Oh, did you go to the gym today?" You know, it's having people accountable for stuff. Or people have like the Fitbit or something or whatever, and or like things
Yeah.
that track your steps. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, our goal is to get to 10,000 today. And at the end of the day, you want to see who won the challenge or something like that.
Yeah.
Things that could actually motivate people to want to do more. It's really
Well,
hard to do stuff by yourself sometimes. Not everyone has that self motivation to do it. Some people do.
absolutely.
They do not need nobody. But some people also need people to like motivate them to like, hey, you got this. It's like in the gym, you're trying to do a rep and you feel tired. Normally you just drop it, but someone's like, you
Someone,
know what? Hey
yeah,
bro,
yeah.
you got one
You
more in
got
you.
this.
Just
Yeah,
keep
yeah, yeah,
going.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
feel like that's the way it should be also. Um, I'm gonna have to touch on something because people, I know we're not trying to like, make a textbook, but just so that we're actually on the page, that there's type 1 and there's type 2. Type 1 is the ones that are born with. So those ones I feel like they're more controlled because they've had that like since birth. So it's easy for them to have the progressive care as they're growing up. So it's more easy to handle. I feel like the ones that it's more dangerous, as far as I'm concerned, are people that have type 2 that they do not know nothing about it. And while they're grown, it just comes out of the blue. And those are the ones that are actually often misdiagnosed because they just feel like they're just being tired or there's something
Absolutely.
else wrong with
Yeah.
them. And never have they ever been um, diabetic
Tested.
before. Yes. So they haven't gone through that process before. So when it happens, it's like, oh, I'm not feeling good. I'm just feeling tired. My mental status is like off the chain. I'm feeling thirsty. Those
Or
are
feel
people that are,
first, exactly.
yeah, those are people that I'm actually more concerned about because it's just very acute. It's an acute onset for them.
Mm.
So, and they do not have the understanding of how to go about it when that happens.
Okay. What I would like us to look into also is, we've been able to talk about, some of the things people should look at, the signs and symptoms people should look at, and how this creeps into it. Now, but for the take home for lots of people listening is, what should they do going forward? Because again, you look at the population of people who actually know if they're diabetic or not. Because
Hmm.
if you look at that, patient journey, most times you go into the hospital for a different disease condition, and it's when you're being tested you realize you're being diabetic,
Correct.
and at that time something else is already creeping in.
Correct.
So I feel that early testing for people to check is really good, or having the regular glucose monitor to just check your sugar is good for people to begin to take that into consideration. What do you think?
Well, one thing I'll advise anyone is,
Yeah.
first of all, don't be scared to go to your doctor's office, like, or or your primary care physician. Like, they're your friends. I feel like you said, early detection
Hmm.
averts a lot of things that could happen to you. So checking your blood glucose is good, but sometimes your A1C is actually higher. You could have a low blood glucose, but your
True.
A1C is already accumulating and it's already like going up the roof. But that cannot be detected with a
The
blood
blood
glucose machine
glucose.
at home.
Yeah.
So your primary care physician also is the one that could do that blood work for you. Like, at least, I know it's really hard, but at least in a year, try to go to the doctor like 2 times or once to get that testing done so you could know where you stand in terms of, and it's not just about your blood glucose, it's about your health in general. Get checked out.
I agree with you. I do agree with you. But I've had friends that we've sat down together to discuss
Hmm.
this, and there's this thing they say: if you don't pop the hood, you don't know what's going on under it. So they prefer to keep the hood covered. So because they feel that once you go for a checkup, there's always something they find out. But the truth is, the earlier they find out something, the
Hmm.
better you can even find a cure, or begin to manage it, because most of these things, especially with diabetes, there are times that it can still be controlled or
Correct.
reversed
Correct.
to um the normal level, because you might
Correct.
be pre-diabetic, and reverse it. If you quickly know you're pre-diabetic, all you need to do is change your lifestyle, before you even get
Hmm.
to the diabetic level. So
Correct.
lots of people actually leave with the and they're pre-diabetic and they don't even know yet. But
Correct.
all this can be reversed. So I agree with you, Peter. It's good to
Yeah.
go. Your not police is your friend, but the doctor is your friend also. So
Yeah.
so you should be able to get this checked. And yeah, I think that's a very good thought to leave before we end this podcast today.
Yeah, and just not saying, tell your friends. That's why we see a lot of parked cars on the street damaged. Okay, they can't move. If you don't pop that hood, that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna be
It's just
damaged
gonna
on the street,
stop.
right, on the street.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And
So
triple A can get that out of the street. Okay, just say. All right,
yeah, it's been really nice, having this discussion, and I hope that people have been able to get some insight on this. And yeah, so see you on the next episode. And
all
thank
right.
you so much for listening, everyone.
Thank you guys. Bye.
All right, cheers, bye.